Hi, this is Rex Andrew, and welcome to the Rex Andrew Show. Happy you have found us. Welcome to today's episode, and I want to talk about work, and I want to talk about the value that work has in our life. But before we get started, I want to introduce and share with you one of our sponsors. Excited to have them. We got this very early on. Wealth Management Group. Fantastic. They do services all over the nation. They will help you get to your financial goals. And these are not guys who just push products, certain types of retirement products and things that they sell and make a commission on. They really work with you to help you get to your financial goals. All right, so if you're on social media and you're following us, please hit the subscribe button. We want you to always be able to find out when we publish something new. Follow us on the podcast channels, and so we're excited to be able to bring to you these insights from a hot mind that happen a couple times a week. So today I want to talk about work, and we have a challenge in the United States, and I don't know, it may be global, but I can't speak for other countries because I'm not there right now. Our broadcast emanates from Broomfield, Colorado, so just outside of the Denver metropolitan area between Denver and Boulder. But anyway, what I see is we have a generation of people, and it's probably from about age 18 to probably about age almost 40, who we really don't have as strong a work ethic as the generation that preceded them. Now, I'm not going to be a generalist and throw everybody in the same bucket, okay? There are great people who are young folks who have great solid backgrounds and know how to work, but we also have a lot of entitled people. And so I want to tell you a story because I come from a generation. I mean, I'm 55. It's 2001 in January. So you can kind of put a reference to my perspective. So back when I was a kid, I used to sack coal. Now, whoever has heard of sacking coal? In fact, I would doubt that very many people anywhere understand what sacking coal is. So I grew up in Golden, Colorado, and there was a gentleman by the name of G.H. Stewart. And I never learned what the G.H. was for, even though I mowed his lawn and I worked at his junkyard and I sacked coal for him. I never knew what his first name really was, but I worked for G.H. Stewart. Now, G.H. had a junkyard, but one of the things he sold, and the junkyard was located in downtown Golden, right next to the Safeway store at the foot of the Coors Brewery. Now, one of the things he did sell was coal, and in order to sell the coal, there were two types of delivery. One, you could come to his coal yard and back your vehicle up and then shovel the coal into your vehicle. So that was one of my responsibilities. When somebody wanted a load of coal, I would be the person that loading the coal into their vehicle. And it was crazy because where this was located, there is the mountains, the foothills, and there'd be people from Coal Creek Canyon, Golden Gate Canyon, Genesee, and Evergreen and places who would come down because they had a wood-burning stove in their house or their business, and they'd come down and buy coal. We had people come in trucks, we had in pickups, we had people come actually with just a trunk in their car, and they would put a tarp down and we'd load the coal. So I would shovel coal, but that was fewer than when people came in and just bought a 50-pound bag. Now, coal doesn't come delivered in 50-pound bags. It comes on a semi-truck, and they dump it on the ground at the coal yard. So what the job that I had, and I made fantastic money, was sacking coal. Now, GH had these rice bags. They were woven, basically, they were like a plastic, but I think it was more of a... It was a woven plastic type bag. I don't remember the material exactly, but it was, if you frayed a drop cloth, you would get the same sort of weaving to it. So we'll just call them woven bags. Now, these were 100-pound rice bags. So what we would do is we would go to the coal yard and we'd get the rice bags and we would put coal in them. Now, My dad helped me kind of invent and fix up a rack to put these on. So it was about 3 feet tall, and it had a aluminum wire rim that we configured to hold the coal bag, to the rice bags. So we took some old battery jumper cable clamps, the types of clamps that you would clamp onto your battery. And that's what we would do, is we take the rice bag and pull it through the rim. So it was kind of like a basketball rim, about that diameter. And then we would clamp the bag to that rim. And then we take the fork, and it was kind of like a potato fork. It had the ability to keep everything about maybe a 50-cent piece size in between each of the prongs. So it wasn't a pitchfork, but it was very similar to that. And we would shovel the coal in. Now, sometimes you just lift the chunks of coal and put it in, because you could put the bag on the ground and just sort of chuck the coal into it. Then once you got the coal, estimated about how much in a bag would be, estimated around 50 pounds. You'd have to take the bag and take it off the rack and over to a scale. And on the scale, it had a tire rim from an old car, and so that way it would hold the bag in place. And we would basically, because I had my brother help me sometimes and a couple friends, I talking we all the time, but I would basically then balance out the scale until it was 50 pounds. Then once you got to 50 pounds, add and subtract coal to make sure you got to the 50 pounds on the scale, then you'd have to carry the bag about 20, 30 feet to a storage shed and put it in the storage shed. Now, I started doing this when I was 11 or 12 years old. I think it was probably closer to 12. And Mr. Stewart had a great way of doing this. He paid me by the bag. So back in the day, now I was born in 1965, so this would have been around 72, 73, 1972, 1973. I would get paid 25 cents a bag. Well, I started to add this up, because when you got efficient about this, if you placed the scale in the right place, right close to the place you were shoveling the coal, and you were basically getting as efficient as possible. Back then, and we're talking it would have been 77, 78. I'm sorry. So skip the 73, 74. It would have been 77, 78, because that would make 12, 13 and up. So I would actually make around $8, $9 an hour on average. Now, we're talking 1977. $8 an hour was a fortune. Minimum wage at that time was about $3 in that range, maybe $3.15 and that type of range. And so there was nothing else I could do to make that kind of money. Now, I started doing this, like I said, when I was 12. So I would ride my bicycle across Golden from where we lived over off of South Table Mountain, at the foot of South Table Mountain. And we would go over to the coal yard, which was over by the side of Coors, where the rail yards are. And so I'd ride over there, and it would be in the winter, because that's the biggest demand for coal. And I would sack coal for several hours and make pretty good money. Well, I did this all the way up into high school. And in fact, I got so good at it that sometimes I could make $12, $13 an hour. Now, I never told my friends about that. I mean, I'd have them come with me sometimes just for something to do. But I never told them how much money that I actually made, because I didn't want anybody else to come jonesing for my job. But when you're 12 years old, all the way up to 17, 18, lifting 50-pound bags, pretty hard work. And also, you have coal dust. So I would have coal dust at the foot of my nose, just above the lip there, because you'd be breathing it in. I never wore a mask. I never wore any kind of face protection. I had gloves just to make sure that I wasn't chafing and making my hands raw. But I basically was lifting weights, when you think about it. And this was hard work. But I tell you what it did. It made me appreciate the value of money, because the harder I worked, the more money I made. Now, when I was in high school, 16 and on, I was always dating somebody, and I had a consistent girlfriend that I would marry Hancock, and when I was a junior and senior in high school. And when I wanted to go out on a date, I would calculate how much money, pizza and ice cream and movies, whatever, then I'd go over and sack coal. And sometimes in the winter, I would be trying to work so hard that I would take my shirt off because I was sweating so much that I was basically walking around with steam rolling off of me as sacking coal. So it's one of the things that I look back is to, gosh, what contributed to my work ethic? Because when I talk to people, I always talk about the fact that I may not be the smartest guy in the world, but I'll outwork you. Now, I had some ranch background in my life, and we'll talk about that in some other sessions, but that's how I did it. I literally started doing that type of work. So when I was a kid, it was paper boy, it was sacking coal, it was cleaning up fields after events, things like that. I learned how to work. So I think about it today, and how do we solve this problem? Well, maybe some people need to sack some coal.